I was fighting for my life, and she brought him into our home. My wife. My betrayer. Lying in that hospital bed, I realized they thought I'd never find out. But I did, and I wasn't done yet. That line has been replaying in my head like a broken record ever since the day I came home from the hospital. My name's Daniel Carter, and if you think betrayal is some poetic tragedy that only happens in novels, let me be the first to tell you. It's blood, sweat, shaking hands, and a gut punch that doesn't let go. Her name is Jessica Carter, and once upon a time, I believed she was my salvation. She had this laugh that could light up a crowded room. This sweetness that made everyone think she was the girl you could trust with your life. Everyone but me, apparently. I trusted her with more than my life. I trusted her with my name, my future, my home. And she spit on all of it. The most interesting part isn't even the fact that she cheated. Cheating is common these days, right? Everyone's got a story. No, what rips at me, what makes my hands shake as I write this, is how she did it. She didn't just meet some guy in a cheap motel. No. She brought him into our home, into the same house where we built our life, where we hung photos of our vacations, where she whispered promises in the dark. The man's name? Eric Miller, a so-called family friend. You know the type, smooth talker, handshakes a little too firm, eyes that linger a little too long. I should have seen it, but I was blind. Blind because I was busy fighting for my damn life. I had gotten into a car accident 3 months ago. A truck ran a red light, slammed into my side, and left me half broken. Surgeries, tubes, pain meds, the whole hospital nightmare. I was laid up, weak, vulnerable. And while I was fighting through hell, she was entertaining him. My wife, Jessica, the woman who vowed, in sickness and in health. Apparently, she skipped the sickness part. I still remember that night. It was quiet, too quiet. I had just been discharged, still stitched up, walking like an old man. I wanted to surprise her, come home a day earlier than planned. I wanted to see her face, the relief, the joy. What I saw instead was her face flushed for another reason. Her hair tangled, her voice breathless, and his shoes by the door. That was my first punch in the chest. My own house smelled wrong. It smelled like sweat and lies. And when I walked into that living room, dragging my weak leg, there he was, Eric, shirt half open, grinning like a wolf caught in the henhouse. And Jessica had the audacity to look annoyed, like I was interrupting them. I can still hear her voice, sharp and bitter. Oh my God, Daniel, you're home early. No tears, no shock, no guilt, just annoyance. Like my existence was a problem she hadn't finished solving yet. I wanted to explode. My chest burned, my hands curled into fists, but my body betrayed me. Too weak, too broken. I just stood there, shaking, my mind a hurricane. And Eric? That son of a bitch actually had the nerve to smirk. That was the night my marriage died, though I didn't realize it yet. But let me tell you this, betrayal doesn't hit you all at once. It's not a clean knife wound. It's jagged glass. You don't just bleed. You keep cutting yourself on the memory, over and over. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. Not yet. I just stared at her. At the woman I once thought was the center of my world. And in that moment, I realized something. Jessica wasn't just cheating. Jessica was a liar. A professional one. And what she was about to tell me next would prove just how deep her betrayal ran. Because this wasn't the beginning of the story. No, this was the middle of a nightmare I hadn't even begun to unravel. You ever notice how lies have this ugly smell to them? Not at first. At first, they're sprayed with perfume, dressed up, smiling. But if you sit long enough, you catch the stench. That's what living with Jessica became after that night. The slow suffocation of realizing the person I loved was dripping poison into my veins every damn day. When I came back from the hospital, she played her role at first. She cooked dinners, fussed over me like some TV wife, but it was off. Too polished. Too rehearsed. She never looked me in the eyes anymore. She touched me less. Her hugs had no warmth. And when I'd reach for her, she'd stiffen like my hands were made of ice. That was the first red flag. The second was her phone. Jessica and her phone became inseparable. She used to leave it lying around, never cared if I touched it. Suddenly, it was glued to her hand like an extra limb. She'd tilt the screen away when I walked into the room, her thumbs moving faster than I'd ever seen. If I asked who she was texting, she'd snap. God, Daniel, stop being paranoid. It's just work. Work? She worked at a dental clinic. Who the hell texts that much about teeth? I didn't want to believe it, though. That's the sick part about love. Even when the evidence punches you in the mouth, you tell yourself it's something else. Maybe she's stressed. Maybe she's tired. Maybe I'm the crazy one. That's what betrayal does. It makes you doubt your own sanity before you doubt the liar. But the third red flag? That's the one that broke me. It was a Saturday afternoon. She said she had to go grocery shopping. Fine. I was still weak, couldn't do much, so I stayed home. Hours passed. No texts. No calls. Then I realized she'd left her laptop open on the kitchen counter. Normally, I wouldn't touch it. I wasn't the snooping type. But something in me whispered, check. So I did. And there it was. Her email, still logged in. Dozens of messages with Eric Miller. Some were simple. See you tonight. God, I miss your touch. Others were filthier. Descriptions of things she wanted to do to him. Things she never once did with me. My chest clenched so hard I thought my stitches would rip open. I scrolled, my hands trembling, my vision blurring. Every word was another knife. Then I saw the one that changed everything. He'll never know. He's too weak, too broken. We can keep this going right under his nose. Weak. Broken. That's what she called me while I was lying in a hospital bed fighting to stay alive. While I was swallowing painkillers like candy just to breathe without screaming. She wasn't just betraying me. She was mocking me for surviving. I slammed the laptop shut, but the damage was done. My heart felt like it was bleeding out right there on the kitchen floor. The walls of my house, once safe, once ours, now felt like a prison filled with ghosts of their laughter. I couldn't breathe. That night, she came home late. She smelled like cheap cologne and sweat. Not mine. His. When I asked why she was gone so long, she didn't flinch. She just shrugged, dropped the grocery bags, and snapped. Traffic. Why do you always have to interrogate me? Interrogate. That's the word she used. Like I was some cop instead of her husband. Like I didn't deserve the truth. I looked at her then, really looked, and I realized I didn't recognize her anymore. Her eyes were colder, sharper. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. She wasn't Jessica, not the woman I married. She was someone else. Someone cruel. But here's the kicker. I still didn't confront her that night. Why? Because I needed more. I needed to catch her with no way out. If I accused her too early, she'd twist it, she'd lie, she'd cry crocodile tears, and somehow I'd end up the villain. That's the kind of witch she was. So I waited. I watched. And over the next few days, I gathered my evidence. Receipts from restaurants I'd never been to. Strange calls on the phone bill at midnight. Her perfume fading when she came home, replaced by cologne. And the final nail, a hidden folder on her laptop filled with photos. Photos of her and Eric. Kissing. Holding each other. On our bed. I stared at those pictures until my vision blurred. I wanted to vomit. I wanted to tear the whole house apart. But instead, I sat there in silence, shaking, planning. Because the time for patience was over. The time for confrontation had arrived. I waited until Monday night, when the house had that brittle quiet that makes every clock tick sound like a hammer. I set the stage. The printed emails were in a manila folder on the dining table. My phone was recording in my pocket. The living room lamps were dim, the way Jessica Carter liked them when she wanted to look softer than she really was. I reheated the casserole Megan Thompson, our neighbor, had dropped off, because pity tastes better than anything Jessica had cooked lately. When Jessica walked in, her purse hit the console with that careless thud I'd come to know. She didn't look surprised to see me waiting. She looked bored. Daniel, she said, drawing out the syllables like I was a child who'd done something messy. Sit, I said. She tilted her head. What's this? A performance? Her eyes flicked over the folder. Her lips tightened. She knew. I opened the folder and slid a page toward her. From Eric Miller. Can't wait to be in our bed again tonight. Our bed, Jessica. I heard my voice crack, and I hated it. While I was relearning how to breathe without a tube, you were scheduling CL*SC time. She didn't flinch. You're reading private messages. That's illegal, she said, like a bad courtroom drama. Is it illegal to invite him into my house? I asked. Is it illegal to do it while your husband's stitches are still raw? She shrugged, the coldest shrug I've ever seen. You were gone for months. We didn't know if you were coming back. I needed company. I was fighting for my life. I said, the words burning. You brought him into our home. She leaned back in the chair, crossing her arms. Don't be dramatic, Daniel. You're always dramatic. You make everything about you. Something in me steadied then. The shaking stopped. Okay, I said, sliding out more emails, more photos. Let's make it about facts. For a second, I saw the mask slip. Her breath quickened. The skin around her eyes tightened. She reached for the papers with a quick, snatching motion. These are out of context. How do you take a picture of you and Eric kissing on our bed out of context? Photos can be edited, she said, but her voice had lost its polish. I put my phone on the table, hit play, and let her own words loop back in that breathy whisper. He'll never know. He's too weak, too broken. The recording from her email, read aloud by my notes app, sounded like a verdict. She slammed her palm on the table. You're spying on me now? God, you're pathetic. Say it, I said quietly. Say you were with him. She stared at me, then looked past me, like I was furniture blocking a window. Fine, she said. Yes, I was with him. Because you were not here. Because life doesn't stop for your melodrama. There it was. The clean cut after the jagged glass. I felt the truth slide through me, oddly calm. And then, bang, my front door opened. Eric walked in without knocking, keys in his hand, a cocky grin dying on his face when he saw me. Jess I.O. Sudden event number 1, like a trapdoor opening beneath us. Wrong house, I said. He looked at Jessica. You said he'd be at Liam Parker's place tonight. Jessica flicked her hair, annoyed. Plans changed. I stood up too fast. Pain screamed down my side. The room tilted. Eric took a step toward me, hands up in that fake peaceful way. Hey man, let's be adults. You walked into my house with a copy of my key, I said. There's no adult conversation to have. Give me the key, I added, palm out. He glanced at Jessica. She lifted her chin. Don't give him anything. This is my house, too. I laughed then, an ugly, startled sound I didn't recognize. Our mortgage, says Daniel Carter. Your last name is borrowed. Her face went sharp. Wow, there's the real you. My phone buzzed across the table. Another sudden event. A text from Officer Taylor Brooks, the cop who'd done a wellness check after my accident. Everything okay? Your neighbor Megan heard raised voices. I looked toward the window. A curtain shifted. Megan's silhouette vanished. Great, Jessica snapped. Now the whole block thinks we're dysfunctional. Not thinks, I said. Knows. Eric exhaled, then rolled his shoulders like he wanted to show off. Look, Jessica and I, we connected. You were gone. You can't blame her for needing. Don't finish that sentence, I said. Find another euphemism. He smirked. Tie-in. Warmth. Adult fun. Pick your poison. My hand curled. For a heartbeat, I wanted to swing, to let the pain in my ribs decide, to make his jaw pay rent for every laugh he'd stolen from my house. But I saw the future in a flash. Cuffs, an ER, Jessica crying performative tears for an audience. Instead, I slid a second envelope across the table. These are copies, I told Jessica. Emails, photos, timestamps, receipts. I sent the originals to Martha Johnson, my attorney. She's thorough, and she's fast. Jessica's eyes narrowed. You wouldn't. You already did, I said. I'm just following. She stood so quickly her chair screeched. You think you can scare me with lawyers? You think you can turn this into some noble crusade? She jabbed a finger toward my chest. You are not a victim, Daniel. You are an anchor. You drag everything down. Eric makes me feel alive. Then take him, I said. Take all of him. But leave my house keys on the table. The doorbell rang, another sudden jolt. Officer Brooks stood on the porch, silhouette framed in yellow. Eric shifted, instinctively placing himself behind Jessica. Funny, how brave men get when doors are locked. I opened the door. Evening, officer. Brooks nodded, eyes flicking from my face to the tension behind me. We got a call. We're concluding, I said. Jessica's voice turned honey-sweet in a heartbeat. Officer, everything's fine. My husband is just sensitive after his accident. That pivot, that rehearsed sweetness, made my stomach turn. I met Brooks's eyes. We're fine, but I'd like them both to leave for tonight. Shock stamped Eric's face. Jessica's smile curdled. You can't kick me out. I'm asking for space, I said. And tomorrow, we talk through counsel. For a long second, it was a standoff. Then Brooks cleared his throat. Ma'am, sir, why don't we cool off? It's late. Jessica held my gaze, daring me to blink. Then she tossed her keys onto the table. A bright, metallic surrender. Keep your precious house, she spat. You'll be alone in it. As they stepped onto the porch, my phone buzzed again. Sudden event number 3, a notification from my bank. New charge at the Pinecrest Inn. Tonight. A room under her name. Even as she lied to my face, she'd booked their next rendezvous. CL*SE up. I stared at the screen, then at the empty doorway, and felt something inside me finally, mercifully snap into place. Not rage, not despair. Resolve. Tomorrow would not be about tears. Tomorrow would be about terms. The door closed behind Jessica Carter and Eric Miller, and silence spread through the house like smoke after a fire, thinner, but still choking. I stood there with my phone in my hand, the Pinecrest in charge glowing like a neon sign that said, "You were never enough." For a minute, I didn't move. Then my legs gave out, and I sat on the floor beside the keys she'd thrown, as if they were some medal for surviving humiliation. Grief didn't arrive like a wave. It arrived like weather, shifting, sneaky. One second I was numb, the next I was burning. Rage, then guilt, then a weird calm like the eye of a storm. I pressed my fist against my ribs to steady the tremble. Somewhere in the quiet, I heard my own voice from weeks ago. I was fighting for my life, and she brought him into our home. Saying it in my head felt different than hearing it said out loud. In my head, it was a prayer and a curse at the same time. A knock jolted me. Sudden event number 4. Through the peephole, Megan Thompson, clutching a Tupperware and a small flash drive. I cracked the door. "I won't stay," she whispered. "But my doorbell cam. It faces your driveway. You might want this." She pressed the drive into my palm like contraband. Her eyes were glassy. "I'm sorry, Daniel." She retreated before I could speak. I slid the flash drive into Jessica's laptop, my hand steady in that dangerous way calm can be. The screen showed timestamps. Afternoons I'd been in physical therapy, nights I'd been drifting in and out on pain meds. Clips rolled. Eric's truck backing in, Jessica ushering him up the steps, that quick check over her shoulder like she enjoyed the risk. On one clip, she tossed her head back laughing, then pressed him against the doorframe, our doorframe, and kissed him with the hunger I thought was rare between us, reserved, sacred. I paused the video and stared at a frozen frame of her hand on his chest, and the quiet in the room became a scream. The body I'd been rebuilding felt like a bad project, all cheap nails and wrong angles. I pressed my palms against my eyes until I saw fireworks. My phone buzzed. Sudden event number 5, Linda Carter, my mother. "Honey?" Megan called me. "Are you safe?" "I'm fine," I lied. My voice sounded like it had been dragged over gravel. "It's over, Mom." A pause. "Do you want me there?" "No," I said quickly, then softer, "Not yet." I didn't want witnesses in the museum of my failure. After we hung up, another message slid in. "Martha Johnson, my attorney. Files received. We'll meet at 9 a.m. Tomorrow is about boundaries, not battles. Sleep if you can." Boundaries. The word felt practical, adult. It didn't match the part of me that wanted to smash every dish we'd bought together. I limped to the bedroom and stopped in the doorway. Our bed was made the way Jessica liked it. Sharp corners, too many pillows. I had this urge to flip the mattress, as if truth might be hiding under there with dust bunnies and lost socks. I stripped the sheets instead and stuffed them into a contractor bag, knotting the plastic like I was sealing up a crime scene. Another knock. Sudden event number 6. I braced myself, opened the door, and found Officer Taylor Brooks again, hat in his hands. "Just checking in," he said. "You good?" "I'm breathing," I said. He nodded, looked past me, then back. "You're not the first guy to find out something like this. Doesn't make it hurt less." He handed me a business card. "If things escalate, call. And, this is off the record, document everything. Texts, charges, threats, all of it." "Already started," I said, tapping my pocket where the recordings lived. When he left, the house pressed in. Photos on the hallway wall. Liam Parker snapping us at the lake. Chris Evans, not that one. Mine's a mechanic. Handing me a beer at the barbecue. Jessica gazing at me like I was the only man alive. I took the frame down and set it face first on the console. The sound of the glass touching wood was too loud. I sat on the couch and let the feelings line up. First, rage, clean, hot, almost purifying. Fantasies of Eric's smug grin meeting my knuckles. I let it pass, because I like my future without court dates. Second, shame, thick and sticky. How did I miss it? The late nights, the polished lies, the sudden showers before bed. I traced each sign backward like a detective who arrives a day late to a crime scene and tries to smell time. Third, grief. Grief for the man I was before the hospital, for the marriage that maybe never existed in the way I believed, for the version of Jessica I built in my head and handed a crown. Fourth, something like relief. It surprised me. But there it was, a lightness beneath the ruin. The doubt was over. The waiting room in my chest emptied out. Reality, ugly and sharp, is still reality. You can grip it and push off. My phone buzzed again. Sudden event number 7, a hospital voicemail. I pressed play. Mr. Carter, this is Sharon Patel from Northview Medical. We're following up on the directive signed during your stay. There were conflicting entries on visitation rights. Please call us. I sat up. Conflicting entries? I called back. Sharon pulled the file. It appears your spouse attempted to limit certain visitors and designate a secondary decision-maker, Eric Miller, but the form wasn't valid without your signature. It was flagged. I felt the floor tilt. While I was on a ventilator, she tried to give him power over my body. Not just betrayal. Control. Replacement. I opened a new note and wrote 3 sentences. I will not be gaslit. I will not explain what she already knows. I will not set myself on fire to keep anyone warm. I took a slow breath and looked around the room, at the hollow where our life had been. It hurt. It would keep hurting. But I wasn't broken glass anymore. I was a blade being made. Tomorrow would be about choices. Tonight, I let the storm pass through me and leave what it wanted to leave. Morning came without sleep. My body might have lain down, but my mind had been sprinting in circles, dragging every memory through barbed wire. The clock read 6:12 a.m. When I finally sat up, the sky outside still bruised with early gray. Today wasn't about feelings. Today was about decisions. The coffee pot hissed, but I couldn't drink. My stomach was acid and rope. I laid out the folder of evidence on the kitchen table: emails, photos, receipts, Megan's flash drive, the hospital note about Jessica's attempt to hand power to Eric Miller. Each page felt like a hammer in my hand. At 8:45 a.m., I limped into Martha Johnson's office. She was brisk, steel hair pulled into a knot, her voice calm but cutting. Daniel, I've seen dozens of cases like this. Infidelity is one thing, but trying to rewrite medical directives? That's another battlefield. She wanted him to have authority if I didn't wake up, I said, my voice raw. Like she was planning for me not to wake up. Martha tapped her pen. That's leverage. Judges don't like spouses who treat vows like placeholders. We'll file for divorce with protective clauses. Assets, house, medical directives, even restraining orders if needed. Her clarity steadied me. She didn't look at me with pity. She looked at me like a man with weapons who needed to learn how to use them. But decisions aren't only made in courtrooms. They're made in the gut. So when I left her office, I didn't go straight home. I drove, slow, because my ribs still complained, to the Pinecrest Inn. The receipt from last night burned in my pocket. The woman at the front desk looked nervous when I asked for the manager. I showed him the receipt. He glanced at the system, then at me. Yes, room 214. Booked under Jessica Carter. Still occupied? I asked. He hesitated. Checkout's noon. It's 10 now. A storm surged through me. I wanted to stomp up those stairs, rip open the door, catch them tangled. But that wasn't a decision, it was a reaction. And reactions give power away. Instead, I asked the manager for a printout of the booking log, thanked him, and walked out into the cold. Decision number 1. I would not give Jessica the drama she thrived on. She fed off confrontation like a leech. No more. Back at home, I found her suitcase gone. Closet half empty. Drawers hollow. She had moved herself out, like a thief cleaning up after a robbery. On the kitchen counter, she left a note. Daniel, don't make this harder than it needs to be. You'll be fine without me. You always were needy. I just wanted to be happy. Don't ruin that for me. Jay? I laughed out loud when I read it. Not from humor. From disbelief. She burned my house and left me a thank you card. Decision number 2. I would not let her rewrite the story. I wasn't the needy one. I was the man who fought through broken bones, who held a job, who carried the mortgage. She was the one who folded at the first test of loyalty. The day spiraled with sudden events. At noon, my phone rang. Eric Miller, unknown number. I picked up, silent. You're making this harder, he said smoothly. Jess doesn't want a war. She wants peace. Let her go without lawyers. Split things quietly. Be a man about it. I let the silence drag until he grew impatient. Hello, he snapped. You walked into my house, I said finally. You tried to walk into my life. But you're not built for the weight I carry, Eric. You'll find out soon enough. I hung up before he could answer. Decision number 3. I would not negotiate with the man who laughed in my living room while my stitches were still healing. At 2 p.m., my sister Rachel Carter showed up with groceries. She saw the stripped closet and clenched her jaw. You're divorcing her, right? Yes, I said simply. Good. Because if you didn't, I would. Her presence was grounding. She made sandwiches, filled the fridge, rearranged the chaos. Sometimes the smallest kindnesses hold you together more than grand speeches. But the evening brought another twist. Sudden event number 8, a voicemail from Jessica. Her voice was syrup, the kind she used when she wanted something. Daniel, listen. I didn't mean for things to go this far. Eric, he's not what you think. I was lonely. You pushed me away after the accident. You shut me out. Can't we just start over? Please, don't throw away what we had. The audacity almost impressed me. 24 hours ago, she declared me an anchor. Now she wanted to reel me back in. Decision number 4, no. 100 times, no. I recorded my own message back. Jessica, what we had was over long before I knew it. You made sure of that. Don't call again. Speak to my attorney. When I pressed send, a strange calm settled over me. Not joy, not relief, just a clean emptiness where chaos had lived. That night, I sat at the table with Martha's papers, the flash drive, the note Jessica left. I lit the fireplace and fed the note into the flames. It curled black, then disappeared. Decision number 5. I would not carry her words anymore. And as the fire ate the last scrap of her handwriting, I realized something important. Betrayal didn't define me. My response to it did. Tomorrow, I would begin again. Not with her. Never with her. But with myself, sharpened by pain, steadied by resolve, and, God help me, finally free. I used to believe endings came with fireworks or sirens, something loud enough to mark the moment. But the truth? Endings are quiet. They slip in while you're folding papers at the attorney's desk, or when you find yourself eating dinner at a table meant for 2, but set for 1. Endings come in the pause after a slammed door, in the silence that doesn't ask to be filled. When Jessica Carter walked out, I thought the silence would kill me. I thought the house would cave in without her noise, her footsteps, her fake laughter, even her lies. But days passed, and something surprising happened. The silence became a companion. It wasn't heavy anymore. It was honest. The betrayal, though, it didn't just vanish. It lived in my ribs, under my scars, in the spaces where trust used to sit. It replayed in dreams. Jessica's shrug, Eric's smirk, that email where she called me weak and broken. For weeks, I woke up at 3 a.m., sweating, my chest tight. Rage and sorrow took turns steering the wheel. But then came the shift. A slow, painful one. I realized I wasn't mourning Jessica. Not really. I was mourning the man I thought I was with her. The husband who thought loyalty was enough. The fool who thought a wedding band could shield him from treachery. That man was dead, but maybe that was okay. What rose in his place was someone harder, sharper, yes, but also someone freer. One night, I stood in front of the mirror, tracing the scar that runs from my collarbone down my ribs, the one the accident carved into me. I used to hate it. Now I looked at it differently. That scar wasn't weakness. It was proof. Proof that I survived what should have ended me. First the accident, then the betrayal. I survived both. And in that survival, I found clarity. I understood now that betrayal doesn't start with the act itself. It starts with the small things. When someone stops looking you in the eyes, when they hide their phone, when they treat your presence like a burden. Those are cracks in the dam, and if you ignore them, the flood will swallow you. So what did I learn? Lesson 1. Believe patterns, not promises. Jessica promised me the world, but her actions showed me scraps. Every late night, every deflection, every cold shoulder was the truth, and I chose to ignore it because I wanted the lie to be real. Lesson 2. Don't fight to keep someone who's already left. I nearly destroyed myself trying to make Jessica stay emotionally when she was already gone. Love shouldn't be begged for. If it isn't freely given, it's counterfeit. Lesson 3. Protect yourself legally, emotionally, spiritually. Pain makes you want to lash out, but revenge is temporary. Documentation, boundaries, and silence, that's power. Jessica expected me to crumble, to scream, to fight her on her terms. I didn't. I walked away with evidence and resolve. That's why, today, she's stuck with Eric and I'm free. Lesson 4. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. I won't erase what she did. I won't sugarcoat it. She was ruthless, manipulative, cruel. But carrying her betrayal around like a backpack of stones only keeps me in the grave she dug. So I remember, but I don't carry. There's advice in this story, though I never asked to give any. To any man reading these words, to anyone bleeding from betrayal, don't waste your soul trying to understand why they did it. People cheat because of who they are, not because of who you aren't. Your value isn't diminished because someone else couldn't see it. Their blindness is not your fault. I thought being betrayed meant I was less of a man. Now I know. It meant she was less of a woman. She was the one who couldn't hold her vows. She was the one who spit on loyalty. That's on her, not me. The final decision, the one that shaped everything after, was this. I chose me. Not her, not Eric, not the ghost of our marriage. Me. My scarred body. My steady hands. My future that doesn't include her shadow. Sometimes, when I sit on the porch at night, I catch myself whispering the line that started it all. I was fighting for my life, and she brought him into our home. But now, when I say it, it's not with bitterness. It's with strength. Because I did fight for my life, and I won. Jessica thought I'd never find out. Eric thought I'd never rise. They were wrong. I found out. I rose. And I wasn't done yet. If you ever find yourself where I stood, in the ashes of trust, staring at a door that just slammed, remember this. Betrayal isn't your ending. It's your rebirth. Let it harden you, but not hollow you. Let it teach you, but not chain you. You're not broken. You're remade. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real victory. You'd think once the papers are filed, once the lawyers start shuffling documents and the signatures bleed onto the lines, that would be the end. But endings don't happen in a courthouse. Endings happen in the grocery store, when you reach for 2 cartons of eggs and realize you only need 1. Endings happen in bed at night, when half the mattress stays cold. Endings happen in the small silences, the gaps you didn't know you'd miss until they start echoing. The weeks after Jessica left were brutal. Not because I wanted her back, God no, but because betrayal doesn't just strip your marriage. It strips your routines, your assumptions, your sense of safety. For 10 years, I'd lived with her rhythms. Now I had to learn to move without them. At first, I was clumsy. I burned toast. I forgot laundry in the washer until it stank. I'd pour 2 cups of coffee out of habit, then pour 1 down the sink. And everywhere I turned, I found ghosts. Her hair ties under the couch, her perfume clinging to the curtains, her lipstick stain on the rim of a forgotten wine glass. Each little discovery was a knife, but I forced myself to keep going. Sudden event number 9. 3 weeks after she left, I got a call from Eric Miller's wife. Yes, wife. I didn't even know he had one. Her name was Hannah Miller, and her voice shook when she introduced herself. Daniel, she said, I think we've both been living in the same nightmare. She told me she'd found out about Eric's affair the week before, after she tracked his credit card charges at the Pinecrest Inn. She'd confronted him, and he admitted everything, including Jessica. I needed you to know I'm divorcing him, she said. I sat there stunned. Jessica hadn't just destroyed our marriage. She'd walked into another woman's life and set fire to it too. Hannah cried on the phone, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel alone. Betrayal had clubbed us both, but at least now I wasn't the only one bleeding. That call changed something in me. I wasn't going to let Jessica and Eric script the narrative. If Hannah could move forward with resolve, so could I. So I started building again. Not big, grand gestures. Small ones. I went back to the gym, even though my ribs still ached. Every push-up felt like I was lifting pieces of myself off the ground. I reconnected with Chris Evans, my mechanic friend, who dragged me to Sunday football nights with the guys. At first, I sat in silence, staring at the TV, but eventually I started laughing again. It felt strange, like using a muscle I hadn't moved in years. Sudden event number 10. One evening, while sorting through old boxes in the garage, I found a notebook from before my accident. Sketches, half-finished plans for a woodworking project. Jessica used to call it a waste of time. I flipped through the pages, touched the pencil lines, and for the first time in months, I felt a spark. The next day, I bought lumber. The smell of sawdust filled the garage, sharp and clean. I started with something simple, a coffee table. My hands remembered what my mind had forgotten. The scrape of sandpaper, the bite of the saw, the rhythm of creation. Every cut was therapy. Every nail was defiance. She had taken enough. She wasn't taking this too. Of course, Jessica wasn't finished with her games. Sudden event number 11. She showed up at the house unannounced one Friday night. No Eric in sight. Maybe he'd already lost his shine. She stood on the porch in a leather jacket, eyes glossy, lips twisted into that practiced pout. "Daniel," she said, voice dripping with fake sweetness. "I made a mistake. He's not who I thought he was. We could fix this." For a second, the old reflexes tugged at me, the part of me that had once believed her every word. But then I remembered Hannah's voice on the phone, the flash drive Megan gave me, the hospital trying to call Eric my secondary decision-maker. "No," I said simply. Her mask cracked. "You're really going to throw away 10 years? For what? Pride?" "No," I repeated. "For peace." I closed the door in her face. That night, for the first time since the hospital, I slept 8 straight hours. No dreams. No voices. Just rest. Life didn't magically transform after that. There were still bad days. Some mornings I'd wake up with bitterness burning in my throat. Some nights the silence felt like a tomb again. But slowly, the balance tipped. Good days started to outnumber the bad. Lesson by lesson, I rebuilt. I learned that healing isn't a finish line. It's a daily decision. That you can't control who betrays you, but you can control how much of your future they get to poison. And in those quiet moments, sanding down a piece of wood or drinking coffee alone on the porch, I realized something powerful. Jessica hadn't ended me. She'd freed me. Freed me to see who I really was when the lies were stripped away. The aftermath wasn't about loss anymore. It was about recovery. About turning wounds into blueprints. About proving, day by day, that betrayal doesn't get the last word. I was fighting for my life, and she brought him into our home. That sentence had haunted me, echoed in my head like a curse. But now, months later, it felt different. Not a curse, not even a wound. More like the opening line of a story I'd finally taken control of. Rebirth doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen the moment the papers are signed, or when the door slams behind the betrayer for the last time. Rebirth is slow. It comes in fragments, in unexpected places, in small victories that feel bigger than they should. For me, it started with the table. The one I built in the garage. Sanded smooth, stained dark, sturdy as hell. When I set it in the living room, I realized it was the first piece of furniture in that house that was truly mine. Not ours, mine. No memory of Jessica attached. No stain of Eric's shadow. Just wood, sweat, and my hands. That table became a symbol. Proof that I could create something solid after everything else had been torn down. Then came friendships. I leaned into people I had neglected while orbiting Jessica's moods. Chris Evans pulled me into the circle of guys who grilled on weekends, shouted at football games, and drank cheap beer like it was holy water. Rachel Carter, my sister, called me every day until the cracks in my voice disappeared. Even Megan Thompson, the neighbor who gave me the flash drive, started stopping by to check on me. She'd leave muffins at the door with sticky notes that said things like, "One bad chapter doesn't mean the story's over." I laughed the first time, but damn if she wasn't right. Sudden event number 12. I joined a local support group for men who'd gone through betrayal and divorce. At first, I hated the idea. Sit in a circle and share feelings? Not me. But I went anyway, and I'll admit, it was powerful. I met David Lopez, who'd caught his wife cheating with her boss. Mark Johnson, whose wife drained their savings and ran off with his spiritual healer. We sat in that basement, coffee in styrofoam cups, and for once I didn't feel like a freak. Their stories mirrored mine in different shades, and we carried each other through the bitterness with raw honesty. Talking out loud did something. It unclogged the poison. I stopped carrying it alone. And in their pain, I saw my strength. Sudden event number 13. One evening, after a group session, David slapped my shoulder and said, "You don't talk like a broken man, Daniel. You talk like someone sharpening his edge." That stuck with me. And then, the biggest change, work. I went back to my job at the architecture firm. Walking through those glass doors again felt like stepping into sunlight after months underground. My colleagues clapped me on the back, welcomed me home. I threw myself into projects, sketched designs until midnight, And for the first time in years, my creativity burned without her shadow smothering it. The bosses noticed. 6 months after Jessica left, they offered me a lead role on a new housing development. I took it without hesitation. That project became my redemption arc, each blueprint a line drawn in defiance of the lie that I was weak and broken. Of course, Jessica tried to circle back. Sudden event number 14, she sent a long email. Apologies dripping like syrup, claims that Eric had betrayed her too, that she was confused and made mistakes. She said she still loved me, that no one understood her the way I did. I didn't respond. That silence was my loudest answer. Because here's the truth I finally embraced. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need her misery. My victory was simple. I survived her. I thrived without her. I became more after she tried to make me less. So what advice would I give? To any man staring at the ashes of his marriage, throat burning with betrayal, fists clenched against despair. Hear me. Don't chase ghosts. The person you loved is gone. Accept it. You can't revive someone who chose to kill your trust. Hold the mirror to yourself. Not to blame, but to rebuild. You are not defined by what they did. You are defined by how you rise. Find your tribe. Brothers, sisters, friends, strangers in a basement circle. Let them hold you up when your knees buckle. Create something. A table, a drawing, a business, a new version of yourself. Creation is the opposite of betrayal. It proves you're still alive. Never mistake betrayal for your worth. Their failure to love you doesn't mean you were unworthy. It means they were unfit. Now, when I look back, I don't see just the night I came home early to find Eric's shoes at my door. I don't see only the laptop full of lies or the hospital call about my medical directives. I see a crucible. I see fire that burned me down, yes, but also fire that forged me into steel. I was fighting for my life, and she brought him into our home. That was the beginning. The middle was rage, discovery, confrontation. But the end? The end is me sitting at a table I built with my own hands, sipping coffee that I poured for myself, breathing peace into lungs that once knew only smoke. Jessica thought she ended my story. Eric thought he rewrote it. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't kill, was that my story was just beginning. And to any man standing where I once stood, remember, you are not broken. You are reborn.